So here we are, moving now through the year, through the elemental seasons, and we have come up to the earth element, which is late summer. And I am so delighted to be joined today by Melanie, who is a most beautiful being of the earth element. So we're going to chat today to bring the earth element theory into life, because it's difficult to relate sometimes to the elements, the 5 elements, and say, well, that's all very interesting, but what does it do for me? So I find that these conversations, Mel, we can look into the human behavior that is the wonderful sort of representation of when the element is in balance or out of balance, because awareness is everything. And once we're aware of something, then we've got an option to do something about it if it's not bringing us joy. So we're in the earth element, and I thought I'd just give a little short overview of what the earth element does.
Okay.
And Mel will be nodding, I know, saying, oh yes, that's me. So each element, we have the 5 elements: wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, as you know, and each element has its own natural season in the year. And the earth element is what we would call late summer. And it's very different from the fire element season of high summer. So for us in the Northern Hemisphere, we notice the energetic difference between a high summer day and a late summer's day. And we are most definitely in late summer. Blackberries and berries ripening, damsons aplenty. The heat of the sun, it has reduced, much to many of our relief. The sun is slightly lower in the sky. There's a mellowness, there's a mellow feeling to this later summer period. And it very much is all about nurturing. So fire is about joy, expansion and joy, creativity, spontaneity. Earth is, if we just think of Mother Earth, Mel, that you and I have talked about at length, it's that sense of being held, nourished, nurtured. It's the sense of being safe. So earth element gives us our groundedness. We are rooted. We have we create a hearth and a home around us, which is terribly important in the earth element energy. We are the hub and everyone else are the spokes, but we hold everything together. And if you think of a sort of a cartoon bicycle where the wheels are off balance or misshapen, it starts from the center and then just radiates out. So if it's clunky and clumsy in the center, everybody feels that awkwardness, that clunkiness. So earth literally holds everything together at the core, at the center. The earth is about the mouth, because the earth element officials are the stomach and the spleen. So everything that we take in from the outside inside is by virtue of the earth element. So our sense of taste, our mouth, our likeness for the sweet things of life, because this time of year is about harvest, gathering in the grains, and we know grains are sweet. We can sweeten our food if we're trying to get off refined sugar. We can sweeten our food with grains. So it is very much about taking in first to nourish ourselves, and then this wonderful sort of circular action, which we know as peristalsis in the stomach, where we then break everything down into something that we can assimilate, turn into energy, and then send that energy out so all may thrive in every part of our body, but actually beyond our bodies into every part of our reality, into our world. So earth is about balance. Hands up if anybody out there recognizes balance in their lives for more than a fleeting second. But earth is very much this beautiful sense of reciprocity, taking in to assimilate, to give out. And that's generally where we fall out of balance the quickest. And we'll notice, because we're either taking in too much or we're giving out too much and we're not getting the balance right. So there will be degrees of self-neglect as we forgive to others, or we'll be taking in to try and fill a void inside that we can't then satisfy. And either of those just are indications. There's no judgment. We're just indicating where we have fallen out of balance because we're not taking in and giving out in equal measure. Earth is very much the mothering feeling, the mother of, you know, Gaia, the mothering element. So we notice if any of us have had childhoods where we have perhaps not had the full mothering, the full standard level mothering, for whatever reason, our earth elements may well be deficient as a result. And we will then notice in our behaviors attempts to rectify that deficiency. My mother, a beautiful, gifted, talented, intelligent lady, a doctor, but also with a fair few problems. And she had postnatal depression with me and was anorexic and had a number of difficulties in life. So whilst I always knew I was loved, she wasn't always able to show it because she was often in deep, deep depression. And so I notice in me, there is a void, an emptiness inside. And if there is an imbalance, our behaviors often take us to a place of equal imbalance. So I am a sugar addict. I hold my hands up every day. I try to manage an addiction to refined sugar because I'm always trying to find the sweetness in life that I didn't get because of the lack of nurturing and mothering from my mother. I had the love, which was the fire, that was never in doubt, but that motherly nurturing that comes with the earth element, the nourishing, especially if she was anorexic, you could imagine the meal times in our household were a bit weird if we got anything at all. So, you know, there was that whole sense of being mothered at a physical level was inconsistent and left me with a long-term deficiency that is also interesting to see how my behaviors look to address that. One thing I'd also like to say about Earth, because this is key, the emotion for Earth, because every element has its own emotion attached to it. Fire is joy. Earth is sympathy. Now, sympathy can often be on an intellectual basis. I see that you are suffering. Because Earth actually is about data processing, it's about the intellect. So we will notice and feel almost automatically sympathetic for someone else's suffering. Probably mostly automatic, or it becomes a mental construct. But the virtue of Earth that takes the sympathy to a whole new level, the virtue is compassion. And compassion is not just, I see that you are suffering. I am processing your suffering as an intellectual sort of problem solving in a way. But the compassion is when we feel the suffering. And Earth in balance is able to feel compassion for that person's suffering, may well be driven to offer help or to help alleviate the suffering, but still hold that boundary where we're not taking it on. And as a therapist, this is one of these things that we dance with on a daily basis. When Earth is out of balance, we end up taking on the other person's suffering and we'll take it for ourselves because we feel it's inadequate to not be joined in that level of pain and suffering. So the compassion becomes overly compassionate, inappropriately so, and then we'll take that person's burden and carry it around us. And then that leads to all sorts of interesting behaviors that we may or may not be aware of. So Earth gives us the most fundamental ability to self-care and to care for others, to nurture self and others, to feel compassion for others' suffering and be able to stay objective, but also be able to offer help and be supportive in a way that is sustainable, not draining or sapping. Stomach and spleen are the officials. They're most efficient between 7 and 11 in the morning. So you know that phrase, that little mantra, breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. That's because we're better off taking the bigger meal of the day in Earth in the morning when we can process it. The longer we leave it later in the day, the less efficient stomach and spleen officials are. So we're less likely to change that food and drink into energy that we can then dispatch for, you know, for great use. So that's just worth noticing, that in the northern hemisphere, the Western world, that's actually opposite to what we do. We skip breakfast. Lunch is on the run, but generally we sit down for dinner at 9 p.m., which could not be worse. But that is the working person's routine, is it not? So that pretty much is what Earth brings us. It's the color is yellow, and the sound of Earth is like a sing-song sound. It's like a mother singing to her baby a lullaby. Mm-hmm. So when everyone listening and watching this conversation, Mel, will start to tune into my voice, because this is a wood voice. It's staccato, it's punchy, it's out in, like that. And then they'll notice your voice, which is just about being rocked. Rocked to sleep in the most joyful way. And it couldn't be a more lovely contrast between your earth and my wood. But one thing to notice before we dive into our conversation is that to remember we are all the elements all of the time. So it's not that you are earth and nothing else and I am wood and nothing else. We have access to all of our elements, but there is always one that we favor the most, that feels most like home. And that's the one that we tend to respond to life events with at an unconscious level. You'll come at it an earthy way. I will come at it as a woody way. And we'll notice the difference when we chat. And I'm already smiling at one of the conversations we're going to have about how you feed people and then you go round to their houses and they offer you a reciprocal invitation, because that's very earthy. Reciprocity. We take in, we give back. And how sometimes you're quite surprised at the level of nourishment that you get at other people's houses. But we'll go into that in more depth, because I'm sitting here as Wood thinking, you're lucky if I even invite you in. I mean, that's the level of non-earthiness in my life. You know, it's quite an ordeal to be offering somebody a meal. And the whole thing's like, I'd rather take them out to the pub and pay for their meal rather than have them in my home and manage that whole earthiness. It's hard for me, and my friends will bear testament to that.
Yeah.
So let's dive deep, Mel, into your earth, how you feel that your earth element informs the way you live life, you live your life. And what do you notice most about yourself that we could explore for hopefully some good information for other people watching?
Well, first of all, I need to say that everything that you have just said, even though we know each other quite well, you know, everything that Earth is, I can tick every single box. A massive big tick against everything that you have just said about Earth.
Yeah.
And that is totally me. I wrote down some notes last night. I thought about myself and I thought about our conversation today and what we're going to talk about. And one of the biggest things I think I am is that I'm super caring. I'm super caring about everybody. And just like you said, is that you take on people's feelings. I can walk down the street and I can know just by actually walking past people if they are sad or if they're happy or if they maybe need their hand held or I just have a feeling that absolutely takes over the whole of my body.
Yeah.
And I know that they are suffering.
Yeah.
Now, I sometimes actually have to stop myself from going up to people and asking if they'd like to, you know, they'd like to talk, or maybe they'd like a hug, because I would just be known as the strange lady, I think, if I was to do that. But I would spend 24/7 every day, every month of the year, taking care of people.
Yeah.
But the bad, probably not bad thing, I don't know whether, is that probably 80% of those people wouldn't return it to me. No. And that's because they don't know, they just wouldn't think about it. Whereas I overthink, I constantly overthink
Yeah.
about everything.
Yes.
And that takes up so much of my time,
Yeah.
and causes me stress in my home life at times,
Yeah.
stress in my marriage because I'm overthinking about other people's woes
Yes.
and not my own woes, or not my own things that I need to look after and take care of, but other people.
Yes.
And I think that's probably one of my biggest things, is that I overcare.
Yeah.
Overshare with people. I overcare with people. And
Yes.
I just, at times, I self-sabotage myself, because I think we spoke about that word earlier before we were talking, is that I end up absolutely as tired as anything, because I've dealt with everybody else and not dealt with myself.
Yes.
But then I'm not complaining about that, because I enjoy looking after people. I enjoy hearing problems and helping them sort them. And I talk to a friend about this a lot, and I think I've spoken to you about this before as well, Claire, is that I wish that I listened to my amazing advisor people.
Yes.
I think that I would be so sorted if I listened to the fab advice that I gave to people.
Yeah.
And my husband, my beautiful husband, says that all the time.
Yeah.
How come you sat down just then and you gave the most amazing advice, and you don't do that yourself, Mel? Why don't you do it? And you know what, Claire, I don't know.
No.
I don't know why I do it.
It's so many beautiful points, Mel, that you've brought up through your own life experience of Earth. So many things. First of all, you've written a list. You know, you've written out your thoughts. That is data processing of Earth. Earth is intellect. You think deeply about everything.
Yeah.
Now that puts you in very good stead in a work environment if you're matched to the right level of employment. But if it goes into absolutely every waking minute of your life, and also keeps you awake, because there's this over-pensiveness, we call it in clinic. Earth will go over and over, and it's like being stuck in the spin cycle in a washing machine.
Yeah.
The thoughts go round and round and round, but there's a difficulty in coming to the end of the processing, actually drawing a line, you know, almost turning the knob on the washing machine, saying stop, and then on to the next program, which is so if you're in a rinse and then you want the spin, it's almost like you're stuck in rinse, but you can't get into spin, which means you can't get to the end, which means you can't then take those thoughts, and the lovely Chinese ideogram for this is putting little feet on a thought to make that thought an action. What Earth gets stuck into is the mental processing round and round and round, and falls a little short of getting to the point where it can then say, enough thinking, I've now got to do something. I've got to take an action here. What will that action be? And then put the little feet on, and now you start forward motion. And my beautiful partner is the same. He has a constant Earth imbalance where he goes into this over pensiveness, and he's in this virtual insomniac as a result.
Oh, absolutely.
Literally cannot stop the thought process. And it's a real battle to move out of that sort of almost like a place of stagnation, stuck in thinking, to then move into action. And if you think about, you know, just putting these little feet on, so it's difficult when we've got into a pattern of imbalance, being out of balance, because this becomes a habit. We think things through, and then we notice we're thinking things through an awful lot, and actually we never really stop thinking about things. We just get more things to think about. If we can notice that through this awareness of the Earth imbalance, we can say, right, at some stage, I'm going to have to do something that draws a line under the thinking. For some people, if they're an insomniac, they get up and make a cup of tea. They break the pattern, they break the cycle. For other people, it's almost becomes a learnt behavior that you say, right, I'll give this 2 days and then I am stopping, because then I will just do something, anything, to break the cycle of over-pensiveness, of overthinking. And what we do then, which is a beautiful example, Mel, of how we put on all the elements all the time, we go into our fire element, which is our heart. So we come out of the head, and this is a real challenge for Earth. Very earthy people live very much up here, as well as in their compassion, which is the sacral chakra. If they can come out of the head part of Earth and come into the fire part, which is heart, you then say to yourself, enough thinking, what do I feel? What do I feel would be the right thing to do now? And unconsciously, you are doing that, because the Earth will get so far with the thinking, and then it will go into the feeling, and then it will go into the heart desire. What do I want for this person? What do I want for this situation? And then you'll get your wood out, which helps you to organize yourself and make a list and all these things that needs to be done. The water will be a motivation to drive the project forward to completion. And the autumn metal element will give you a sense of constant evaluation as you go through. How, what is the value of my actions that I'm going to take here? So all the time, without realizing it, we are using all of our elements. But what happens is the favored element, the one that we're most at home with, becomes overtaxed. We use it too much often, then we deplete it, and then we get stuck by virtue of the fact that Earth can't move out of processing and into compassion, because compassion often brings with it some sense of movement. What will I do to help alleviate the suffering? I'm not just going to sit in sympathy and pity them, poor you, that must be awful, right? What am I having for supper? Compassion drives you into action. And I'm sure you can think of times when you've taken on somebody's suffering, but you've also been driven to take some compassionate response.
Yeah.
Try and change the situation for them.
Yeah.
And maybe what we're looking at here is just tweaking, is just an ever increasing awareness of how long you're in the processing mode, and how could you perhaps shorten that processing period so you don't go from thinking to overthinking, over-pensiveness that gets stuck, and you move quickly through your compassionate energy into taking an action. Which may be taking no action. It may just be opening, like you do. You open your heart, you sit and you listen to that person offload on you, and you just take them in that motherly love, either a physical hug, or you just sit and hold the space for them and say, I can't imagine how awful this is for you. Just tell me how this feels, work it through with me. I am here to listen.
Yeah. I do all of that. I do
all of that time. All
of the time. In fact, we had this conversation, I think, quite a few weeks ago in practice, and I really listened to what you had to say, and I have started to change a little bit, Claire. I have started to almost package things up that I hear from various people. I think one of the things I am, or I do, is that I do not suffer fools. I hear my older sister talk about the same issue over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I listen to her over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I actually heard this same problem last week over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, a light bulb went in me. I thought, no, I can't help you anymore. Yeah. It's causing me stress. It's causing my family stress. And yet you're just walking away stress-free because you've gone and burdened me with everything.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Stopped there and then. I drew mine there and then. And that was very difficult for me. I love her dearly, and I chat to her, and I still chat to her, but I don't want to chat to her about that problem anymore.
Yeah. Because
she's not doing anything for herself. And she was born in October. I don't know what that makes her, but she so I I am learning, but I'm slowly learning. But I do try my hardest. I do try my hardest not to take on people's woes, and but it's very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And you know, and I just want to hug people. I just want to make it. I just want to make everything better all the time.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
You know, and I just feel sad. I just feel sad. You know, I also feel very guilty, and I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, that I've got a lovely life.
Yeah.
I feel very guilty that I have I have a nice house, I've got a lovely husband, I've got beautiful children, got lovely grandchildren, and yet I feel guilty purely because I see all these people on the television who are going through the most awful, awful time.
Yeah.
And I beat myself up about that because I think, oh my God, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to have this, you know? And I'll speak to my husband about it. And like he almost puts his eyes to heaven and goes, Melanie, just accept that we have a nice life.
Yeah.
Just accept that we have a lovely life and just move on. I find that really difficult.
Yes. Well, absolutely. Again, many superb observations of Earth in its various state of balance and imbalance. And bearing in mind, we never stay in balance all the time. That would be as equally unhealthy as being out of balance all the time. We are in constant fluid motion. And of course, there'll be an internal landscape that affects the way we feel, and affects the way our elements are working. And there's an external landscape, the reality out there, that is having an influence on us. So we're never going to be at this perfect place of supreme equilibrium for long in any of our elements. But what we can do is strive to bring those periods of balance in for longer each time, and reduce the times when we are out of balance and the suffering that causes. But the point about feeling guilty is a very, very valid one, for the earth element, because the earth, as you said beautifully, wants to make everything better. A mother always wants to take the pain away from the children. She would spare the children any hideousness in their life at all, throw themselves under a bus to spare the child the suffering.
Yeah.
And yet you know that the child needs to experience life to learn, to build their own resilience, build their own life strategies, because you're not going to be there for them every step of the way, and nor should you. That would be tying them to your apron strings and inappropriate. They're trying to get out the door at the age of 35 saying, Mum, I can tie my own shoelaces.
Oh, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And you won't do them right. Exactly.
And here's your packed lunch at the same
And
time.
there's the packed lunch, and I've done your washing. And by the way, you didn't ask me to it, and I'm slightly resentful because you haven't thanked me either. But there we are. I've taken it upon myself. But so the mother in you, which is very heightened in you, the mother in me is not very well developed. So I didn't have children by choice. I just got dogs. They're easier to mother than people. So you will always care deeply. You will always want to protect deeply. You will always want to nourish and nurture every single second of your life. And to deny that would be denying your core essence, and it would be pointless, because the effort to be somebody else would just be just a waste of your energy. And you'd always bounce back to being you anyway. So what we're looking at here is just refining our response to life, bringing back a little bit more resilience to our earth, that says that we can look at the suffering. Say we look at the evening news. I would say don't look at it very often if you're very sensitive like you. I would actually protect yourself, do a little bit self-care here, and just not immerse yourself in it so much that it consumes you. Be well informed. You'll have to be well informed. The earth wants to be well informed. It is a data processor. It needs information. So you'll need to be well informed, and you will have an intuitive, instinctive response to the news and all the stuff on it. And you will just go, oh, bless, oh, I can't imagine. What doesn't then need to happen is that you then look into your own surroundings and say, and I am not worthy of this, because you didn't have it. I am not able to have the joy and feel the joy of my own environment.
Yeah.
That's quite a discipline to get into the habit of, but it is a habit. It's recognizing what is there, sending your heart. I remember saying, you know, what can we do to alleviate suffering? Very few people can get on a plane with $1 million, or, you know, and go and put aid into war-torn strips, you know, areas of deprivation or famine, or go and speak to the presidents and dictators around the world and say, now come on, let's make peace. Most of us aren't in a position to have any influence at all, let's be honest, at a practical, physical level. And that for the earth will be very hard, because your answer to most things is to make it right, mostly through feeding, nourishing, and nurturing.
Yeah.
The hug and the table laid groaning under the weight of food, made with love. So when you can't do anything practical, earth goes into a bit of a flat spin, because it cannot make things better. But what you can do is remember that as energetic beings that we are, everything is energy. You just sitting and focusing for that moment and opening your heart to compassion and feeling compassion for them, and then sending your desire for it to be better, for the betterment of all, for everyone to have a home, to have a family, to be loved, to be cared for, to be safe, all of these key themes. You can send that desire through the quantum field. You can want that for them. And then at a certain amount of time, you break that connection, because it would be inappropriate to spend the next 30 years, because it may take 30 years to bring resolution to conflict around the world. It would not be appropriate for you to be in that state of overwhelm, of suffering. So see it as a service. You can't feed them, you can't hug them, you can't build a home for them, but you can beam your compassion that comes so naturally to you and want for it to be better for them. And then at some stage, you draw the line and you come back into your life and you say, and all the while that I keep my personal life well nourished, well nurtured, stable, I will be sustaining my ability to spread compassion to the world, even if it's just through the screen of my television. Because if you're in a parlous state through self-neglect, through not giving yourself enough self-care, through being homeless, about to be evicted, you know, through chaos and not attending to your domestic life, your sphere of influence, not be in a position to send sustained compassion and desires for things to be better for all of life on the planet, if you are struggling for your own survival. So you can look around and say, I work hard to create a beautiful home, to be well nourished, well nurtured, to be resilient and robust, because I want to be there for people. People in your local town, your local friendship circle, your family circle, your wider sphere of influence online, if you're you have groups, support groups, and through your TV screen to places further afield. You have to be in a good, strong place to be able to beam compassionate vibes out to the world, to be that receptive ear, that kindly person who senses someone in the streets abject suffering, and intuitively you know it will be safe and appropriate to do so. You just go up and touch them lightly on the arm and say, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? Because that's what earth in all of us does.
Yeah.
And you've got to be in a good place to be able to do that, Mel.
Yeah, I know. And you know,
there's no guilt. There is no guilt. It's a service to yourself, so you can be in service to others. That is the earth element.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. And probably I think maybe about 80% of the time I am okay. I'm
Yes.
ready to be able to help other people.
Yes.
Um, yeah,
It's
and
balance. It's just
yeah,
getting balance. It's
yeah.
getting
And
the balance.
I'm not particularly very good at is
Yeah.
that not very good at being able to balance
Yeah.
things. I'm either super busy, and I love being super busy. So I'm either super busy or I've got nothing to do. And then when I have nothing to do, which most people would think, fantastic, I've got a day doing nothing today, I think, oh my God, I've got a day doing nothing today. So nobody loves me.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see me. Nobody wants to eat with me. No,
Ah,
nobody wants to come around to my house. And yeah, I'm shattered because I've had a really super busy 2 weeks. But
yeah.
because I've got one day on my own, I start
Gosh.
doing it myself.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's that sense of, well, Earth very quickly slips out of unconditional nature into a conditional nature, where this true reciprocity has no expectation or attachment to a return. We are not compassionate in order to receive compassion. In Earth, when it is beautifully in balance, gives unconditionally. It just
Mm.
does. Fire in balance loves unconditionally. Any of the elements, when they fall out of balance, all of them go into a transactional, conditional mode, where the unconditional aspect suddenly becomes something that we are chalking up. And you said to me that made me laugh furiously when you invite people for dinner. The table, we've got nibbles to start with. We've got the table is groaning. There's just course upon course upon course. And when you're invited to dinner, and that you're probably invited by people who do not have a strong earth element,
Mm.
you're lucky if you get a few dried titbits and a glass of wine.
My
And,
best
and you're sitting there thinking, well, this is great, isn't it? This is hardly reciprocal, considering the 5 courses that I gave them not just a week ago. It's
and
because they're not earthy.
it's that expectation.
It
And
is.
I didn't have expectation
No,
because I think expectation makes you feel the way that I feel because
it
I
brings disappointment generally because there's an expectation reality gap. If you
yeah.
have an attachment to any outcome at all, there will always be an expectation reality gap. And within that gap, there's a big long word. It starts with D, and it's disappointment.
Yeah,
there
that's
is there is never a joy in an expectation reality gap. There
no,
really is
no, that expectation.
generally disappointment.
And yet I love the people. I've
Yep.
never not loved those people.
Yep.
But I come home and I think, oh, well, they didn't do, I did this and I did this and they
Yep.
didn't do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, it is
Well, it is a habit. It's an habituated response. You know, my first response to the world at large, from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to sleep, is, well, that's not fair. I go into righteous indignation. It's a very Woody thing because it's about fairness for all. And when I see something that I judge not to be fair, I go hands on hips. Well, that's not fair, is it? And then I start this whole internal dialogue of how I'm going to address it and what I'm going to say to that person who's just dropped litter and da, 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 da. So Earthy's equivalent is that balancing up the scales of reciprocity. Have they returned the favor to the same level that you gifted to them? Um, and if it falls a little short, the habit of Earth, especially if Earth is a little out of balance that day, will be to sort of be slightly resentful, slightly judgmental. Earth has a great thing. It goes quite a long way down the spectrum from a place of beautiful balance of unconditional mothering and nurturing. You have to travel quite a long way down the spectrum to the far end, which is burning martyr, victim, and look how I suffer, and how is it that nobody sees my suffering, in brackets. And I know I haven't told anybody that I'm suffering, but I am expecting them to see it and to ride in with, on a horse called sympathy and just pour it into my energy field. And by the way, whatever they offer won't be enough anyway.
But
So
you forgot one thing. They're riding on a big white charger horse with a picnic full of beautiful food.
Yes, that they've lovingly created to show how much they love and care for you and how much they value the gifts that you give to them in abundance.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So Claire, my best friend, who I have known for 36 years, so we have been through everything together.
Yep.
She is the most horrendous cook, the most horrendous. She doesn't think about food.
Right.
I think we had this conversation the last time we were together. She doesn't think about food. She doesn't prepare food. The times that I see her, which is probably about 4 or 5 times a year, I go down to London to see her, or she comes up here. She doesn't put any emphasis on food. I'll go into her house and she'll just open up the cupboards and go, "Oh, I've got nothing to eat." So I'm thinking, but I've come down to London to see you. I would have filled the fridge by now.
Yeah.
I would it with food, and you said, "Oh, what would you like to eat?" I've just picked up a few bits. However, I've been thinking about 2 weeks exactly what I'm going to do. Anyway, so I've just come back after being away for a few days with Cliff, my husband Cliff, and we went down to see her at her house in Dorset. And I said to her the last time I saw her, "Oh, I'm just sick and tired of coming to your house and you're not having anything here and whatever." Anyway. So then she said to me, "I'm going to take you out. I'm going to take you out for dinner on the night that you come and stay with us." And I said, "Oh, fantastic. That's lovely." Anyway, so I got there, and then she just said to me, "I've decided to cook." And I put my hands over my head and just thinking, no, you haven't cooked. Please don't bring it. Anyway, so called us around the table. We were all in the living room, called us around the table. And she'd made the most amazing meze board. The most amazing meze board that she'd put so much thought into. Oh. And Claire, I can't tell you how much it filled me with joy.
Yeah.
The food on the meze board, but it had nothing to do with the food on the meze board. It had to do with the thought about it.
Yeah.
That everything that was on that meze board, she knew that I loved.
Oh, bless.
And it was just the thought about it.
Yes.
So I don't think it's, for me, I don't think it's the food that people lay on and things like that. I think it's the thought process that goes into.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
That
the caring side of it.
Caring side of it. Yeah, because I know that when people come around here, I've thought about what they like to eat. I know them really, really well. I've thought what they'd like to eat or whatever. And I think that's the disappointment for me, is that if I go around to somebody's house and they haven't thought about what I would like to eat, or, you know, about how emotional I am about how people care about me. I'm super emotional about that. I tell everybody I love them all the time, purely because I want to hear that people love me.
Yeah.
So maybe I say to people I love them because I want to hear that back all the time as well. And like you, I came from a childhood that I had lots of love in my childhood, but I don't think my parents should have had children.
Mm.
Yeah. And I chose to leave home at the age of 16, and it was fight or flight for me.
Yeah.
So I want to be loved, because although my parents loved me, they couldn't show me that they loved me because they were so hell-bent in ruining their relationship and ruining all of our relationships. And sadly, that goes on with my 3 sisters and me, because it's learned behavior. So I think for me, I just want to feel love. And so if that is going around to somebody's house and having a beautiful meal that they've thought about me, then that's it. Or being told that I'm loved, or having a little gift here and there, or having a text that just says, "Hey, I love you today." That
fills the void.
That's all I want, Claire.
Yeah, it fills the cup, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
absolutely feels I don't need
Yes.
is I don't need gifts.
Yeah.
I just need to be told that I'm
It's
loved.
it's the gesture, it's the
Yeah,
showing.
yeah,
Yes. And
absolutely.
yeah, and Earth will show in a very physical way. And you think about Mother Earth, Gaia, she produces all this wonderful abundance for us so we can actually thrive, not
Yeah,
just survive, we
yeah,
thrive. Um, so Earth will be oriented toward the provisions side of
yeah,
things because that is just the nature of the Earth element.
yeah.
So there is that disappointment when you don't get provisioned to the same level that you would naturally provision others,
Yes.
um, because that's more the orientation. And from our conversations, you have this growing awareness of, well, they clearly don't have a very strong earth element, because if they did, they would be around food. It would be demonstrating love through food, through the
Mm.
caring of the provision of it, the cooking of it, um, the eating of it, all of that, the amount of it. Um, so if you are in and around people where food is not very important in their lives, they will have earth within them because we have all the elements all the time, but it won't be a very strong in the hierarchy, in the pecking order.
Yeah.
And then it's really an interesting challenge for the earth element to perceive how they are loved beyond the nurturing, nourishing, provisioning sort of way that earth would naturally love others. So the it's almost like broadening your awareness, stretching out of earth into the other elements and saying, how would a wood show that they loved me? How would a water show that they loved me? How
Yeah.
would fire show? And be able, through your growing awareness of each of the gifts that each of the elements brings us, you will be able to discern through their behavior which how each element is demonstrating love, because it will be all very, very different.
Mm.
So with me, with an earth perennially out of balance and deficient, it won't be a food thing. Thank God you don't come and see me and expect to be fed, because you would be mortally disappointed when I got out a packet of digestives, and that would be a big thing for me because I don't get them in the house, because otherwise I'd eat them. Um, so, but I would show my love in different ways. So I think earth, the maturity that we have as we grow in greater awareness of each element, is to be able to see the gifts that they bring us outside of our preferred element. So you would still feel nurtured with your lovely friend who made the most beautiful meze board, and she sounds more fiery to me, because if earth isn't really big on her you know value set, if you like, but she knew what you were hoping to see and she put
Yeah.
her heart and soul into it,
Yeah.
that says it's more fire. I love you because I'm going to do things that I know that you would appreciate. I have no interest in the goddamn meze board, but I'll think about you because I love you, and
Mm.
I'll try and knock something together with as much care and attention as I possibly can, because you will be nurtured and nourished by that in your soul, in your
Mm.
heart. So that sounds to me like a fiery gift,
Yeah.
as opposed to an earthy gift, which would have had her slaving away for 2 weeks, like you do, 2 weeks ahead of a dinner engagement, building the menu, getting things cooked, frozen, ready on all sorts of wondrous levels, so that they can start eating the minute they walk through the door.
Oh, absolutely.
So yes, it's knowing ourselves beyond our predominant element,
Mm.
and developing that sort of breadth and depth of the other elements that allows us to be a little more agile, so that when you get this overwhelm of noticing and feeling other people's pain, you can bring in the other elements to say, okay, in that's appropriate that I feel this for a short period. It is my entire life's work to be compassionate. Great, I'm going to feel compassion. I'm now going to move that feeling into an action.
Mm.
And that action might be doing nothing. That might be a very well decided action, to do nothing, just to be there, bear witness. Earth is very good at that. And to move it on beyond the over pensive, the over sort of this, almost like a sentimental overwhelm.
Yeah.
And it's just knowing these things, and knowing that when you go to people's houses who aren't particularly, whose personality type is not high in earth, you better eat before you go, because you'll be hungry. And you know, that's when I go to my earthy friends. I only have one, and she's like very much like you. She cooks. Well, I don't eat for 2 days because I really want to enjoy what she provides, because I would never eat like that at home, ever.
Yeah.
And when people come to me, they know they better eat before they come, because what they're going to get is pretty basic fare.
Yeah.
Not because I don't care, it's just because I just don't. I'm not dominated by earth.
I think also as well is that I've sort of maybe I've maybe sort of slightly I think I've maybe slightly unclear water.
Overegged the custard.
Yeah, right. The custard is that I think I do the food thing because I want people to love me.
Yeah.
And it, you know, the food is important, but it's the love which is important to me.
And I would say, I would say
food.
when we look at this in a sort of a diagnostic sense, in terms of diagnosing the level of balance and out of balance of the earth, that lack of mothering from your mother, the practical touch, the feel, the nourishment, the nurturing, because she was so intensely preoccupied with relationship difficulties and working through that sort of bit of karma, that left a void in you. You left home at 16, which is still a time, an age where we still desperately need mothering. We're going, you know, puberty is hitting us hard. We're going into adulthood. We desperately need our mothers to steady the ship while we learn a whole new set of life strategies. And you didn't get that. And from the age of 16, after a shaky bit of maternal loving or nurturing, the loving was there, but the nurturing wasn't, a bit like me, you then had to go and mother yourself from the age of 16.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
Yeah.
And your earth will be much depleted because of that fact that you then mothered yourself, and then all your friends and your work colleagues and everybody else that was so blessed to have come into your sphere of influence to be mothered.
Yeah.
So you're recognizing that all of our earths are deficient, frankly, for whatever reason, and for you to put perhaps a little bit more onus on your own self-care, your own self nourishing and nurturing. You know, do things for you so that you can be strong and resilient and your cup is full, not because other people are demonstrating how much they care for you, but because you have cared for yourself to that level that your cup is full. So that when you then go and nurture and nourish others, there is no need to expect or need something back to top you up, because your cup is full.
And that is so right. That is so right. That's so true. And I want to just go back to a conversation that I had with somebody only a few days ago, who is very, very much like me. And she's helping everybody, and she's helping a family, and she's helping her husband's family, and whatever. And I said to her, Claire, I said,
here it is.
Here it is. I said to Shirley, you need to look after yourself, because if you become poorly, then you can't help anybody.
There you are.
I'm telling somebody, and yet I don't do that myself.
Yeah. Sit yourself down and pay yourself 70 quid for that advice and say, I am going to listen to my own therapeutic intervention. Yeah. I'm going to act upon it. And do you know what, Mel? You've got nothing to lose. That's the lovely thing about when we're tweaking our elemental behaviors and taking our focus around the elements in a more enhanced and harmonious dance. You've nothing to lose, because you can always bounce back to where you are now.
Yeah.
Overgiving, overcaring, depleting your own reserves, just making it through to a point of exhaustion, just getting enough to top yourself up, and then you start the whole thing again. Actually, play with your own advice and see how you can bring this in on an incremental basis with conscious. See, the lovely thing about earth, it's about processing, intellect. You can think your way into a change of behavior. Other elements can't. So you can think your way through, right, what have I done for me today?
Mm.
How many minutes have I attended to my needs? Oh, according to my list, only 3.
Yeah, yeah. I was
possibly.
Then how many minutes have I given to
How
myself
many minutes?
so far today? And
none.
None.
No,
Really?
no, because you've even given me an hour out of your busy day, which I'm so appreciative of.
I would give you as
Really.
many hours as I had, Claire. You know that.
But everything we give out, remembering Earth is a state of taking in to give out, so all may thrive, and all of that has to be equal measure. So when you're cooking your cake and you've got very precise measurements, so it all blends together perfectly, we have to do the same for ourselves and for others. The right measures.
So why doesn't an Earth person do that? What is it?
It's purely because the Earth has become out of balance for whatever reason, whether from the natal, the childbirth, a terrible birth. I was an early birth, so I was underweight when I started. From the get-go, I was deficient in Earth because I was a prem baby.
Yeah.
The mother rigged the scales to get us discharged from hospital. She actually altered the scales so that I was made the right weight so she could get home. Didn't want to stay in hospital. I mean, I don't blame her, but there was this whole thing of lack from the very get-go, of sort of muddling through and making it right, but not it being exactly as it naturally was. Just sticking plasters, really. So I think whenever we are not looking at our own self-care, taking in for ourselves to give out to others in equal measure, it is because the Earth is out of balance.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we go to the list of the balancing strategies of Earth, which I emailed to you.
Yes, you did.
Which I can't do it because I've blurred my boundary. But if anybody wants them, by the way, I do Earth workshops. So please call me and we do all of this in more detail. But you go to your balancing strategies, and like you do with your lists, you're ticking off, have I done that today? Have I done that today? Have I done that today? Oh, I haven't done that. Oh, I haven't done that. I've done an awful lot of that. I haven't done that. And I go through the balancing strategies and start to put a little bit more conscious attention into, I would say, building them up. So you can't do all of them every day, nor do you need to, but you can certainly do 3 or 4 of those every day. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, that conscious, intellectual thinking approach to your self-nurture will bring your Earth back into balance.
Yeah.
And where you are always going to be slightly out of balance from that childhood experience of lack of nurturing, then we recognize that our habitual response to life will be slightly Earth out of balance, but we can actually reduce the impact that has in terms of suffering on self and others just by awareness alone.
Yeah.
Just by awareness.
Yes, yes.
So when Cliff says to you, God, you really ought to listen to your own advice, then you just stop for a moment and you go, so what did I say to my friend? I said this. You've got to look after yourself, because if you crash, everybody crashes.
Yeah, that's true.
How could I apply that to myself today? Because I'm really feeling that I am suffering today.
Yeah.
How do I nurture myself out of this suffering and back into a place where I can actually feel more nourished, more nurtured, more grounded, more stable, and more able to give at an appropriate, sustainable level without it becoming exhaustingly depleting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for Earth, it's mostly just reining it back a little bit. When you do that, by being a little bit more conscious of what you're doing for you. Start with you, then you will have stuff to give to others.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I'm also I'm also very, very organized. Super organized.
That's your wood, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Super organized.
Yep.
Yet my husband, he's not organized. And the reason why he's not organized is because he'll be upstairs in the bathroom and he'll be having a lovely shower or cleanse. He's got into cleansing his face now and putting moisturizer on it. So he spent loads of time in the bathroom, or, you know, he'd be sorting out what he's going to wear for something. Whereas I'm the one that's organising everything.
Yeah.
So actually, I need to take a leaf out of his book.
Yes.
And
Yes.
maybe still be organised, because that's easy to do.
Yeah.
But also spend more time doing things myself.
Yes,
And in
that's the mirror. That our
Yeah.
partners, our family, our friends are always mirrors back to what we are doing or not doing. They are the answer to everything. We
Yeah.
don't have to take all of this on ourselves, become the burning martyr. Look how I suffer. Well, I'm bloody doing it because nobody else is bloody doing it. You're all
Yeah.
in the bathroom doing your flaming moisturising protocol. If only I had time to do that. Well, you know what? The only person that's not giving us time is
me.
ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. You're so
By
right.
being efficient and organized, you are creating wadges of time that you can then go and indulge
Yeah.
in your own self-nurture. Whatever that looks like, a massage, a swim, a bloody long soaking bath, you know, in whatever. But it's we sort of punish ourselves sometimes. There's a sense of I am not worthy right underlying all of this. I am not worthy to treat myself to anything.
Yep.
You know, slightly goes out of balance then, then we get resentful of other people who seem to have no difficulty in treating themselves,
Yeah.
spending time on themselves. You know, I'm deeply resentful of my partner many occasions because I have still got jobs to do and he's sat on his ass, you know, looking at his social media. And I think, well, that's great, isn't it? But one of us has to do the washing up. Well, actually, nobody asked me to do it. He'd be happy if it sat there for 3 days. It's only my obsession with cleanliness and orderliness and woodiness that everything has to be washed up and put away before bedtime. He's never asked. And we've got a dishwasher. Why aren't I loading the dishwasher and asking him to empty it? You know, I can do self-burning bloody martyr and victim way off the scale.
Yeah.
I get medals in it if I'm not careful, such as the imbalance in my earth.
Yeah.
I can very quickly go into burning martyr.
Yeah.
And it's so great because he utterly ignores it. He will not play that game with me. We don't do passive aggression in this house. He says, do you want help? If you want help, ask me. And then that thing of, well, you should have noticed. And I think, no, bollocks, no, sorry, language. No, why would you notice? Why should he notice?
Yeah.
Just ask Claire, will you mow the lawn? Yes, no problem.
Yeah.
Will you do it now? No, I'll do it in an hour. That's a tricky one. But he will do it. He'll do it when he can and he's ready. It will get done. Can I sit with that? Yes.
Do more women have this than men? Do you think more women will do more things than men will do, or you know, think to themselves, actually, I think you should have picked up that I needed the dishwasher done. I think you should have picked up I needed the hoovering done, or I needed the garden done, or whatever you needed to do.
I don't think it's gender-based. I think it's elemental hierarchy.
Right.
Because my friend's husband is very earthy and does burning martyr. He burning martyrs me. And that's saying something. Does he ask for help? No, he suffers in silence. His wife ignores him because that's the only way for him to snap out of it. He has to get himself out of it.
Yeah.
And she's not hard. She's not uncompassionate. She's not lacking in sympathy and compassion. She just knows that feeding that level of sort of self, woe is me, just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So she just goes about, busies herself, does things, and he gets himself to a point where he can get out of it. So for me, it's not gender-based. It's about elements. It's about elemental hierarchy and the state of balance or out of balance that each element is in.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
And that's what I love about the elements, is because they're non-judgmental. They're either in balance and we see these behaviors, or they're out of balance and we see those behaviors. But there's no judgment to it. It just is what it is today. And then our increasing awareness of self and our energetic harmony within our energetic landscape helps us to take appropriate action. Because only really we can do that. No one really can come and save us. No. We have to save ourselves, and that's such an earthy thing. We really do have to save ourselves.
And yet, yeah, absolutely. And yet I have chosen to marry, and it's coming up 6 years ago, 12 years ago since we met,
Yep.
somebody who is as far from unearthly as I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just by fluke, or I've gone and weeded and I've got rid of the chaff and found somebody who was so unlike me that I knew that I would be able to benefit
Yes.
and love him. I mean, Cliff
Yep.
came to me as a widower. Is it a widower or a widower?
Yep.
Is it a widower? And he came to me with a box. That's all he had, was a box.
Yeah.
And when he moved in here, he was 57 or 58. And that's what he had. He had this little box, and that was what he, really happy about that.
Yeah.
Now, I would be mortified if I had a box at the age of 58, but he didn't care about that.
No.
He didn't care what he had or whatever.
No.
And yet he cares that he has time to himself all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
He cares that he looks after himself when I'm not around.
Yep.
And he cares that he cooks dinner for himself if I'm not around.
Yeah.
So things that are so far removed from what I would actually choose to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe my kind of inner element has chosen.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's resonance. You see in him what you aspire to be.
Oh, absolutely.
And he is
100%.
reflecting back to you how easy it is. Once you make that decision to elevate the importance of you in the whole dynamic and attend to you as you should to that degree, as well as being super efficient and organized, which means you can do all the other things as well, but without taking it upon yourself as an obligation or a duty. He's just reflecting to you the art of the possible.
Yeah.
Perfect. I am with somebody who could not be a more polar opposite to me.
Yeah.
A more polar opposite to me. He's chaotic. I'm organized, OCD organized. He is chaos on legs. It's just, and he just reflects back to me, chill, let it go. Is this really important? Is this worth, getting your knickers in a knot over? Constantly, but inviting me to come to a place of balance. Constantly.
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I knew it's because I found him on internet dating. I hounded him. And I knew as soon as I saw his photograph, and I thought, bloody hell, it's you. You are my soulmate. I thought, weird. I wouldn't have picked you because I didn't be. He was the opposite of everything on my wish list on internet dating. And he was the one 17 years down the line. Yeah. We do unconsciously, energetically, we call out to the person who will invite us back into balance.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
I've learned so much, Claire.
Oh, well, thank you.
I always learn
sharing with me.
Every time I see you, I always learn from you. But yeah, I've learned a lot. I've learned loads and loads and loads.
Bless you.
And it's so strange, isn't it? How you can, you talk about Earth and how many people will slot into that.
Oh yeah.
File.
Yep.
And literally all those notes that you sent me, everything. I was ticking all the boxes.
I know. And remembering we are all the elements all of the time. So that's where the real mastery of life comes in, being able to bring in all the elements contextually, or to just help out the struggling element, especially our primary one that often gets exhausted because we over rely on it. So, you are so much more than just Earth. Obviously, you are all of the energies, all of the elements. And Earth is your primary interface with life. So celebrate it, cherish it.
Yeah.
More to the point as Earth, cherish you. Cherish you.
Yes.
Really take on that joy of mothering you without somehow feeling, well, as long as I'm bloody doing it, because nobody else will, which is the a sort of follow on. Cherish you, and then you may continue to cherish every living thing on this planet, because I know you do.
Yeah, I do.
I do.
I absolutely 100% do.
So a bit more of your organized efficiency to carve out the time for you. So for every minute that Cliff spends in the bathroom with his moisturizer, I suggest you match it. And see how you feel at the end of the day when you have literally attended to your needs.
Oh, do you know what, Claire? I was worried today that I had today all on my, I've got today all on my own, tonight all on my own. I was thinking, oh, I've got today all on my own, all on my own. Oh, I've got nobody to feed. I've got nobody to do this for. I've got nobody to do that. And now all of a sudden I'm just thinking, oh, I can think of all the lovely things that I'm going to do today.
For you. Yeah, for you, exactly. You can still feed you. You can cook a beautiful meal for one, and or do it for two and freeze the other one for Cliff. You can have an indulgent this. You can do a chick flick that. I mean, you can. Absolutely, yeah. Just indulge yourself. You've earned this day off. You have earned it.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
so, you know, absolutely immerse yourself in it.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Mel. Well, we could be still here this time next Christmas, so we'll probably draw it to a close. Thank you, my darling, for your time, your love, your energy.
Thank you for your time.
Oh,
thank you for your time.
You've gifted me. I feel guilty now. I'm going to have to get some decent food in next time you come round. at least a little something sweet to offer you. So I will see you soon, my darling. Have the most gloriously indulgent day.
Thank you. I absolutely will. And I'll tell you about it the next time I see you.
Please do. I want a long list of gloriousness.
Thank you. Oh, very much. Thank you for your love.
All my love to you, darling.
Thank you.
Care. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sweetheart.